go. When it comes forth, you will know. The clouds are full, the wind is howling. It's about to rain, a change is coming. Can you feel the burning? I know that the season it's turning, a change is coming.
For sure, the change is coming. New and improved road infrastructure, social intervention, housing made more affordable, skills training, urban renewal, and so much more. Hi there, everyone. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and I'll be your facilitator for the next half hour. There's more on the flip side of this break. We'll be right back. Last week, we looked at the newly minted Sexual Harassment, Protection and Prevention Act 2021, which took effect on July 3, 2023. Now, this week, we go a bit further with part 2 of the discussion on gender affairs. Watch now and get the facts.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. When one thinks of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, the first thing that comes to mind is that it focuses on women's issues. But is that what the agency is all about, or is that all the agency is about? Well, here to tell us more about the role of the Bureau is Principal Director for Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Sharon Coburn-Robinson. Welcome to the program, Lady Coburn-Robinson.
Thank you, Theodore.
All right, let's jump right into getting the facts. Now, what is the mandate of the BGA?
All right. So essentially, I heard you say that the Bureau is responsible to make sure that women and men experience development. Okay. Is that what you said?
Well, I was wondering, is it just about women's issues, or? It's
women and men.
Okay.
And it's on a basis of equality. So as you're aware, development is not something that we all experience in a homogeneous way. Okay. And so we have to ensure the gender differential. And that simply, you look puzzled. It simply means...
No, you're blowing my mind.
As a male, you experience gender in a different way, and you experience development in a different way from women.
Right.
And so the programs that we roll out, or activities, or plans, or projects are all geared towards making sure that you experience it in the way that best suits your needs. That's what gender differential means.
Right.
Making sure it matches what you require based on your contextual realities. And that's for development of human capital, making sure that all parties experience what is required and in a way that is equitable and with equality.
I find that fantastic. And when you said gender differential, I was thinking like, so not one size fits all.
Absolutely.
But okay. So how does the agency help to ensure this sort of gender parity in Jamaica? Especially, as you said, we're in different places. We experience it in different ways.
Absolutely. So we do that in collaboration and partnership with a number of key stakeholders. So we have specific programs that we focus on naturally because of the fact that we have a gender mainstreaming mandate. And that says making sure that men and women, boys and girls, are included in development in whatever plans, programs, policies, projects, whatever operational plans you're rolling out. You ensure that the benefit is equitable and that it is so resourced, whatever your program that you're doing, that nobody squeals discrimination, nobody squeals victimization, nobody is accusing anyone of sexual harassment or feeling that there is some amount of bias in the workplace. And which, even if it's not in the workplace, even if it's a community space, members of the community ought to benefit equally from all materials, resources, services, benefits that are available on a basis of equality, simply because the gender policy states that, or National Policy for Gender Equality, as well as the Vision 2030, making sure that all parties benefit equally. So we are all on that road, on that path to development.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. I do have to ask, Have you faced any challenges with this idea of mainstreaming gender and parity?
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
society?
Absolutely. We do get some pushback, Theodore, in some spaces, because in some instances when we go to do sensitization, persons would ask, are you speaking about women's issues only? Are you focusing on making sure that women are empowered?
Right.
And so we have to say, absolutely not. We are looking at women's empowerment as well as male empowerment. So much so that we have now a male empowerment unit. And that male empowerment unit focuses on issues relating to men and health, men and behaviors that are health-seeking. You know, there are times when some men are afraid to do prostate cancer screening.
Right.
And they might not want to go to the health center for a number of reasons. But we find that they'll come to a fair. And if they come to a domino tournament, for example, they'll talk about issues. Or if they go to the barber shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we try to meet them where they would go normally. And then we have the conversations
So it's not
where
just
they can.
man up and do it.
No. It's not mandatory, but it's strongly encouraged. And we find that when persons get to it naturally, willingly, on their own, it makes such a world of difference than when you actually force them to get there.
So the philosophy, I'm hearing this come out. The philosophy is all rise.
All rise.
None left behind.
None left
so
behind.
We're not trying to say, okay, it's woman time now. We're not trying to say, oh, it's man time now. It's everybody's time.
Absolutely. That's what, when you talked about gender parity, that's what it speaks to. Making sure that we pull everybody along as required with no holds barred in terms of saying you can get this but you are not. So it's a level playing field, making sure that all parties, whatever you bring to the table, we enhance that. And if you are short on something, there's a gap, there's a deficit, we have that responsibility to work with entities and international development partners to source what is required to fix those gaps.
Understood. Now, pardon me, I know we're saying parity, but we so rarely hear about men when it comes to gender issues.
Yeah.
Now, I recognize that the BJ has a men's desk.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So that men's desk has developed from 2009 when it was started to a space that I spoke about earlier, a male empowerment space.
All right.
And that male empowerment space has a network, a robust network of males who are a part of the conversation and who come to sessions that we have and coming up with ideas. Just last Friday, I had a meeting of the male network and we talked about ideas. So in May, May we discussed and planned finally put the final touches on the father. What is it? Fathers Award, Outstanding Fathers Award. This is an annual thing we started in 2019.
An award ceremony.
Yes, and we had for the first time 40-odd men who we honored, and they were so excited. So we had to make space for them to bring their family members, a spouse or a significant other, and a child or two children, just to see them receive their award. Because a lot of times men think that they are not recognized and appreciated enough, and compare themselves to women to say when it's Mother's Day, you know, and Valentine's Day, men, you know, men have to do stuff for women, and women feel special. So we wanted to do the same thing for them, this kind of pampering and special recognition, so that they would understand that we do appreciate their contribution.
This is fantastic stuff. I love that we're having this conversation. We are going to continue speaking more about research and policy development, but a break is coming up. So please don't go anywhere. We're discussing the mandate of the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Please stay with us.
Shelby, I want to you. I make it look like you have the whole world on for your shoulders, Massa.
Ashley, I'm tired. Every day the same thing and I can't take this no more.
And what happened now?
No, my boss, man. Every day I have me assign some documents I'm not supposed to assign for with some big money. And when I say, sir, I'm not supposed to assign for them here, I'm going to say, you want a job or what?
But see, report him. You hear what I say, girl? Report him to your designated officer or the Complaints and Protected Disclosures Unit at the Integrity Commission. And guess what? Don't worry yourself. The information that you give will be kept confidential.
You sure?
Girl, me positive. Under the Protected Disclosures Act, you can make a report as an employee. And once it is made in good faith, then your boss really and truly can't do nothing about it. And if you don't want to call, you can make an anonymous complaint under the Integrity Commission Act of 2017 by simply downloading and sending in a report in proprietary form from the Commission's website. Just create one email address with no identity attached, so if they have follow-up questions, they can contact you. But sis, make sure that the report you bring is true and you don't have no bad intentions.
Okay, me I go do it.
If you or someone you know has experienced or observed matters involving corruption, improper conduct, or impropriety within the workplace, you're being encouraged to file a report with the Integrity Commission by calling their anti-corruption hotline at 876-926-0001 or emailing cpd@integrity.gov.jm. The Integrity Commission, united against corruption.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're continuing our discussion on the role and the functions of the Bureau of Gender Affairs to employers and institution heads. Our guest is Principal Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Sharon Coburn Robinson. Lady Robinson, let's keep going with getting some of these facts. Now, the Bureau has a public education campaign and a training function as a part of their mandate. Right. And how have you found the reception to those efforts?
Good question, Theodore. So the gender, one of the main campaigns that we have now is no excuse for abuse. And we had to develop that because we found that the statistics were alarming in terms of the number of persons who are reporting.
I've seen that one.
You've seen that.
In the billboard in Halfway Tree, for example. Right.
Yes, and we've ramped that up at the community level because we recognize that sometimes you can't plan for these things in terms of you might have done a robust sensitization session with a number of persons coming, and the next morning you hear that somebody there's a death suicide, murder suicide, or a child was killed, or a child was kidnapped, a young man was abducted. It's just bizarre when you hear that because you know definitely that we have been trying, we've been working, and the idea is just to get that mindset where persons recognize that it is not okay to harass somebody, it is not okay to violate somebody, and all of us have rights. And so you don't have any right to violate somebody. You have a right to go to somebody's house and plunder and kill the persons and leave the children without our parents. It's just not right.
Do you think that you're up against culture?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have this thing called the conspiracy of silence, Theodore, where some persons at the community level know about what is happening. They see and they know and they're aware, but they're afraid to speak because of that culture that says inform of the dead. And they feel if they talk about it, then they are going to be stigmatized and they might lose their lives. They might be reprisals. They have to leave the community. Right. And so we encourage persons to disclose the information in a confidential way so that nobody has to know that you've shared that information. But if you think of the rationale behind it, if you share that information, you could cause one less person or one less family to suffer. Right. So you share the information simply because you're also saving your own life and the lives of your family members.
So the idea here, the thrust here is essentially to blanket these areas with this information.
Absolutely.
But also make the avenues available for people and let them know where they are.
Certainly. So the research has given us ideas on the hotspots and the communities that are more prone to have gender-based violence. So once we know that this is so, earlier we were a part of it's a ICVIS. It's a information. What was it? Integrated Crime and Violence Information System, ICVIS.
Right.
And that had to do with a repository of data that speaks to how violence is committed in different communities, and crime observatory. That was it. It was a crime observatory, and then the information was collected. We had to do the validation sessions. Once we have that information, we know these are the spots that are more prone to violence, and the times when it happens. In the summer, around the time you have Valentine's Week, that week of Safer Sex Week, which they call Safer Sex Week deliberately because we find that a lot of sex takes place in that week because it's Valentine's Day and that's Love Month and Love Week and so on. And when children are away from school, in Christmas, Easter, those are the hotspot periods, times and so, and the spaces. Once we know that, then the strategies would be how can we penetrate those communities with information and have the community buy into it as well so that they're also protecting those members of the community. Buy in.
I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. The BGA does research, policy development, also project planning and monitoring. Could you give us a brief rundown of what you do in that regard?
Exciting work, Theodore. So everything links to something else. So the research is done primarily to unearth what is actually out there. What are the main issues?
Which you spoke to a while ago.
The issues that are presenting. So once you get that information in your research, then you can now say, how can we develop plans and programs? For example, or NSAP. You might have heard the expression NSAP or NSAP GBV.
Yes.
It's a broad, very ambitious national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica, a long name. We call it NSAP, GBV for short. And that NSAP told us that gender-based violence is endemic, and it is something that's a violation of human rights. Endemic.
Help us.
Endemic meaning it's across Jamaica. It's not just in spots.
Right.
It's across Jamaica. It's just that it's more pronounced in some communities than others. And sometimes there's an underreporting of the cases because, again, the informal culture and the conspiracy of silence and so on. But once persons get the awareness, and what we also have found is that community policing helps. So when we hold hands with the police and do a lot of work with the police, just go into the communities and do the conversations with them. Like we call it pound the corner reasoning, just going to and having little brochures, flyers and stuff. I had one earlier where you just talk to persons about, what is domestic violence, who are the victims, and how can you prevent yourself from getting it and from becoming a victim of domestic violence. And if it happens, what are the forms of redress and how do you protect somebody else? How do you report it, for example, if it's a family member? And the final thing I want to say here is that the project now would be a short-term fix or a strategy to develop something that allows us. So, for example, I talk about the RPP. That's an acronym for Refocus Perpetrator Program. And that is something, that came out of our NSAP, which states that the NSAP has 3 levels. The victim, when the person is in harm's way, then a survivor when you have been reformed and assisted to become somebody of influence, so you can now help others. The second layer would be the victims, the witnesses. Witnesses, it could be a child or it could be a family member or it could be a bystander. And the third level would be the perpetrators. So we spend more time on the other 2, victims, survivors, and witnesses, and less on the perpetrators. And then we found out that the perpetrators were not going anywhere and the cases kept increasing. And so we were forced to come up with a program that says, how do you grab these, not physically, how do you get their attention, they are, the perpetrators, and have a conversation with them about why would you see yourself as a perpetrator? Why do you want to carry out an act of crime, an act of violence against somebody? Is it something that happened to you in your early childhood that wasn't addressed? Are you yourself a victim now, have become a perpetrator? And that was so telling. We partnered with JAMHAN, Jamaica Mental Advocacy Network, and we did for the very first time, Theodore, a biopsychosocial assessment. It sounds fancy. It simply means just talk to the persons and conduct a little scientific test to see what's wrong with the head, if that's a problem, or what are the factors that have caused you to become a perpetrator.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating what you have just described, because research and policy development sounds very high level. Sounds very up there. Not necessarily something that concerns me, but what you have said is that the BGA is taking the research and connecting it into actionable biopsychosocial assessment. Just talking to people. All right, okay. And you covered a bit of project planning and monitoring as well. I'm curious, what other projects are these?
So we have COPE.
Very briefly, we're almost out of time.
We have COPE. COPE is just what it says. We assist community members in groups, and different groups at community level who are doing fantastic community work but need a seed grant and need to be boosted in terms of technical capacity and marketing, niche marketing and so on. And so community outreach for partnership through empowerment. At this point, we have 18 partners. We started off with 8 in 2019, July 26, I will not forget it. And we started off with 8 partners. Now we have doubled and more than doubled, 18, yes. And each group has a different focus and a different function. And we give them funds every month, a little grant that they don't have to repay, and that allows them to be able to do fantastic work.
Wonderful, wonderful. One thing that I'm getting coming out of all of this is that the BGA is on the ground talking to people and working with and for people.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lady Coburn Robinson. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Principal Director of Agenda Affairs in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Sharon Coburn Robinson. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
Gangs are a major threat to our national security. When you consider it, that a gang come with canisters of petrol and deliberately walk from house to house and throw the accelerant on the house and light it afire with children inside. It is not something that the state should tolerate in any way. To consider it a crime would be to treat it as ordinary. What this is an act of terror. And the people who have committed it are terrorists.
Yes. Yes.
And they should be treated as such.
Yes.
I have a message for them. We're going to treat this one specially. And the people who committed the crime were seen. And I'm going to be personally on it to ensure that every last one of them is found and dealt with.
In this next feature, we bring you the highlights of the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports agenda for this fiscal year.
We are determined to position ourselves to build out a platform on which our people can be propelled to greater levels of achievements and set things right.
The highlight of the Ministry's Culture and Entertainment agenda is the festival celebrations. Strategic changes included increasing the festival song competition finalists from 10 to 12. Meanwhile, the fireworks display and drone show returned for this year's Grand Gala celebrations, which featured a tribute to the late Harry Belafonte.
And we continue to challenge ourselves to raise the bar each year.
Protecting Jamaica's cultural heritage took on great importance. The ministry is moving forward towards the construction phase of a living history museum in tribute to national hero Marcus Garvey at his boyhood home in St. Anne's Bay. The project suffered much delay due to squatting on the property, but strides were made in this area.
And I'm happy to say that alternative housing was provided. The Prime Minister himself presented the former occupants of Marcus Garvey Way with keys to their new homes. 2 of the 3 persons have been on the property. We are appealing to the individual who has refused to come off the property. We do not want to evict her. We do not want to evict her. But if we have to, we're going to.
And in setting things right, the ministry spearheaded efforts to have the 8th day of April each year celebrated as Chief Tacky Day, honoring the leader of the 1760 slave rebellion in Jamaica. The Governor General made that proclamation along with another to declare December 27 Sam Sharp Day, another freedom fighter and national hero. In addition, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Youth, May 25 will now be celebrated as Africa Day in schools and the wider society. The ministry is also pursuing a program of restoring and developing the nation's physical heritage sites, largely managed by the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, JNHT. The JNHT and Institute of Jamaica have entered a strategic partnership with the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation and the Ministry of Justice to redevelop the Morant Bay Courthouse. The works include the restoration of the historic courthouse and annex, the reinstatement of the Paul Bogle statue, a cultural museum, an interpretive information center, and a memorial garden. Major upgrades are also coming for the Seville Heritage Park, including its Great House, museum, entrance, parking facilities, food and eating areas. Boundary fencing is installed for greater security control, and the property is now available to host a variety of entertainment events. Work continues to develop the Port Royal Entertainment Zone, including Fort Rocky, the Lighthouse, the Cruise Ship Pier, Old Naval Hospital, and Fort Charles. The Institute of Jamaica, with funding from the Port Authority, is developing a new museum at Fort Charles that can serve tourists who arrive on the various cruises.
Entertainment zones enable the staging of events unhindered, with the benefit of driving economic activity without disturbing the neighbors.
Protecting the vulnerable in society is top priority for the government, and as such, the commencement of the Sexual Harassment Act took effect on July 3, 2023. The legislation addresses concerns about sexual harassment that are employment-related, occurring in institutions, or arising in the landlord and tenant relationship.
I use this opportunity to remind every employer and person in charge of an institution and landlords of their responsibility, and certainly the institutions and the companies, their responsibility to ensure that the policy statement required under the Sexual Harassment Act is prepared and brought to the attention of each worker, client, student, resident, ward, inmate, patient, or member, as the case may require.
4 sexual harassment investigators have been hired, and a helpline is now in place for both women and men.
I continue to urge the public to take sexual harassment seriously.
The Bureau of Gender Affairs has been holding sexual harassment sensitization sessions with the public, while also assisting organizations to develop or revise their anti-sexual harassment policies in keeping with the law. Also, an additional 38 schools will be targeted this year to ramp up the Gender Ambassador program. This is to increase sensitization and awareness on gender issues, school-related gender-based violence, and the role of leadership and decision-making. The focus will be placed on principals, guidance counselors, and teachers. The Ministry of Sport is now moving to get architectural designs for the redevelopment of the National Stadium, marking a significant step in the project. Submissions for the project have been approved by the Ministry of Finance, and the Public Investment Management Committee has given instructions for detailed designs to be done for the proposed works.
In addition to upgraded stands, seating, lighting, and other upgrades, the redevelopment of the National Stadium will include a new velodrome, because what the intention is to take out the obsolete velodrome that's there, to take out all the seats in the stadium, to relocate the velodrome in lands adjacent to the stadium itself, and build a new velodrome there. And then the stadium itself, all the stadium will be semi-covered.
The project will also include the establishment of the National Sports Museum next to the Bob Marley statue.
We will realize our ambition of a modern, state-of-the-art national stadium and sports museum and velodrome.
An estimated period of 36 months has been given for completion of the construction. Meanwhile, JADCO is completing its ISO 9001 certification this year as it continues its leadership position for clean sports in the region. This year, the Sports Development Foundation will invest $165 million to construct multipurpose courts and upgrade fields and other infrastructure in communities and schools. In addition, the SDF will provide $182 million to support the development work of 57 national sports federations and associations. In the meantime, a group health and life insurance plan for entertainment and cultural practitioners will be implemented this year.
We will soon announce the details of the insurance program and how entertainment and cultural practitioners will be able to participate. However, they must be on the e-registry. We are determined to build out an even greater platform for excellence in culture, entertainment, and sport, with positive policies of gender equality and mainstreaming as the glue that holds it all together.
And just like that, we're signing out for today. But not to worry, you can rewatch this offering or other content like this by visiting our website, jis.gov.jm. Do join us again on this same station tomorrow as we bring you another informative, educational, and entertaining package of Jamaica Magazine. On behalf of all of us here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, thanking you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.